always feels very special being in this country. I have been coming to this place for a long time now. In the beginning, it was just a curiosity. And then the Japanese writers and painters and especially filmmakers, they may have caused me to be here more enthusiastically. Then sort of recently, for some reason, recently, my sort of outlook or my approach to Japan and the Japanese is a lot to do with Buddhism. Probably because I'm getting old. As you get old, you begin to think about identity. And, Buddhism or being Buddhist is a very important identity that I grew up with. I was born in a hardline Buddhist family. I was born in a country that claims 99% are Buddhist. And then, ever since I was 5, as some of you may know, in Tibetan they have this tradition called reincarnation. I mean, everybody is a reincarnation of somebody. But in Tibet, there was a specific custom or a tradition or a practice that developed where you find a reincarnation of a certain figure that then sort of ends up becoming a stakeholder, if you like. It becomes, this being will become the lineage holder, the stakeholder. I'm not going to go through this too much because that's not our subject that we are discussing, but it has some relevance. So just so that you can relate, I will give you some example based with the Japanese phenomena. So let's say you have a very precious wisdom tradition of tea ceremony, which you have, right? And that ceremony has become such an important for a society, so important that it actually involves, the influence of economy, even politics, social issues. And then let's say there is a tea master, tea ceremony master, and he or she is the most, respected. And it is because of he or her that the whole that institution has become so strong and powerful. But suddenly this person dies. But there is a practice of keeping that tradition either through family lineage or maybe sort of based on meritorious sort of like the best disciple, or somebody who can actually hold the lineage, like organize the lineage, influential, that's also possible. But in Tibet, let's say, coming back to Japan, let's say you have a tea ceremony master who dies, and then you look for the reincarnation of this master to hold this lineage. Can you understand? So it's a bit like this. And it has its virtue. Let's say this tea ceremony master who dies is a very, very powerful, coming from a big family, everything. But he dies, but his reincarnation is found in a very, very poor family. So that kind of phenomena exists with Tibet. This system is, as with all the system, this system is not always good. Especially these days, this system is very corrupted. Many times, the very powerful disciple of this Lama, they will slowly make their kid the reincarnation. Or this powerful Lama's, sister or brother may have a baby, and then, they don't want the influence to go outside, right? All that human problem exists. Okay, sorry, again, I'm going, I'm not good at, I made a note today, so hopefully I will, not go here and there. Remember I said, first time I came to Japan as a tourist, I was interested in things like karaoke, harajuku, and asakusa. Afterwards, I was more interested by people like Ozu and people like Tanazaki. But now, I'm coming here as someone who was trained or basically brainwashed, to worry about Buddhist identity. And as that, now I'm 62, almost 62, and I come here as a Buddhist stakeholder, let's say, not a good one, really mediocre one. And I'm not that devoted. I don't think about it every day. But once in a while I think about it. Because I'm brainwashed to think about the Buddhist identity. So as I worry about Buddhist identity, I put a world map on my table. And then when I realized once upon a time, Japan was one of the most important Buddhist places. I have to say, I feel really sad looking at today's Japanese Buddhism. And I think it has a lot to do with the Japanese modern Japan's sort of unsure of their identity. You feel like the Japanese visualize America on the top of their head, inside their heart. But they still try to put the shoes together. They still bow. All of this, there's this. But anyway, as a Buddhist stakeholder, I don't really care how your shoes are put. For all you care, those things is that's not my business. Okay. Today, whatever I say is just a speculation. I have no scientific statistics evidence. It's all based on my feelings. And then as I look at the map, Korea, once upon a time, a very strong Buddhist stronghold. They're perhaps even worse, I feel. At least the Japanese seems to only think about materialism. In Korea, of course the materialism, but the Buddhism is forgotten and Christianity has involved. Of course, a faith, a spiritual path must be sought out through analysis and through your also karmic connection. So of course, completely free to do that. It is very possible in 200 years, Vatican will become Buddhist. But anyway, as I said, for me, I'm just expressing my feelings. It's all speculation. Because, as I said, for me, my identity, the only identity I have, I think, is I'm a Buddhist. That's it. Buddhist, maybe sometimes Buddhist teacher. That's it. If I get fired from this job, I will have an existentialist angst. So this is why when people ask me what I want to talk about here this time, I said, how about identity crisis? But actually, I also want to talk about Heart Sutra, because Heart Sutra is the answer to the ultimate identity crisis. Hopefully we will come to this later. And the identity crisis, I think we have, and we are going to have more of this, more and more. And I was told that there's something called artificial intelligence revolution, artificial AI revolution. Now that's going to push us even more, closer to the identity crisis, ultimate identity crisis. Of course, Japan, you have identity crisis. Even a remote country like Bhutan, they have identity crisis. I'll tell you an example of how Bhutanese have identity crisis. When I teach Bhutanese young generation, they ask questions like this: what is the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? Now this is a proof that they are going through identity crisis. Again, I'm speculating. Because in Buddhism, we don't talk about purpose of life. Buddhists believe life is an illusion. Why should an illusion have a purpose? But these Bhutanese, they asked this question because they went to Christian colleges, Christian missionary schools. And in the Christianity looks like, they make it sound like there is a file that God has listed. Your purpose is this, your purpose is that. So this is where it sounds like the people seem to want to know, what is my purpose of life? What is written there in that ultimate file? I'm sure this similar problem exists in Japan, I have a feeling. Now we have a big problem because the God is fired by the scientists. People who write the purpose of life, long gone. Maybe not in Korea. Is Yuanten here? Oh, I'm sorry if I'm, teasing you too much. But at the same time, please bear. I will be also teasing you Japanese. And anyway, I was trying to tell you why we are, because you see that this is it. Because, like many of you Japanese, the Bhutanese also go to Western study, read Western books. So their meaning of purpose and meaning of meaning is written by those people. And you are reading that. So of course you ask questions like, what's the purpose of my life? If you ask this kind of question to somebody like Dogen, Dogen Zenji, he most probably will say there is no purpose. Okay, let's depart from the question, what is the purpose of life? another sign of us losing our identity. I'm again using the Bhutanese. I see some of my fellow Bhutanese right in front of me. I'm sorry if I'm teasing you a bit too much, but it's okay. Okay? Now, so those people who are slightly more so-called scientific, they ask this question, who am I? You know, identity crisis? I don't know whether Buddhists like this kind of question. The Buddhists would prefer question, what am I? What am I? Not who am I? You know, if you read the Heart Sutra, it's all there. No nose, you know what? No nose, no tongue, no this, no that. But of course, you know, we will, I guess, now we have no choice but ask these questions. Who am I? And along with this, there are a few other questions like, I guess, who am I? When am I? I guess you can also ask this question. When? That's a very big one. Question of Genesis. Buddhists don't like these kind of questions. Of course, now, then, there are more other symptoms of identity crisis. How do I fit in this world? You can also ask questions like, why should you fit, and all of that. And why do we feel so pressured to act in a certain way? I think many of these questions maybe are asked consciously, and if you are asking these questions consciously, I think you're okay. You are sort of sober. You know, this identity crisis, I bet 2,000 years ago in Japan, the identity crisis is dealt by something so simple like zazen, purely sitting, just sitting. And this method actually is relevant even today. But, you know, in the process of what we call, material development, progress, I think we may be asking so many other questions, such as, how do I fit in? So when we ask the questions, how do we fit in this world, if the choice is limited, then then actually it's okay. But wow, now there is just incredible amount of choices. So your identity crisis actually is in more crisis because you have more choice. Many times we, the modern people, we are suffering because we have overwhelming freedom. In the process of trying to find the freedom, we are still bound by this insecurity of thinking, hoping to be recognized by others. So sense of too much freedom, too much choice, and never really have a proper conclusion, to the question of what am I and who am I. But strangely, all this also makes you feel very alienated. So these are the identity crises that just very general kind of, modern issue or a modern dukkha. Of course, then this creates more, more, what do you call it? Thinking process, such as dream, passion, goal. So in this context, I think if we can think back what was discussed between Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, one will see some light in this. Shariputra is one of the most important, very learned and accomplished disciple of the Buddha. So there was this gathering in a place called Vulture's Peak. And we are talking about 2,500 years ago. You could say it was on the Vulture's Peak, all the teachings of the Mahayanas have begun. Okay. So Shariputra asked Avalokiteshvara one question. And I'm going to sort of, what do you call it? I'm going to share the way I understand his questions, okay? In the classic term, the Shariputra asked, so how should a boy and a girl, or man and a woman acquire the transcendental wisdom and live with it, or act according to it? So that's sort of the classic way of interpreting. So today, now let's come back to today's world. This question is, in today's context, this question is something like this. Something like Shariputra is asking Avalokiteshvara, so how should a boy and a girl go out of the box? Do you have the expression in Japanese? Out of box? A lot of the Japanese, writers and poets, they're really...
I just said getting out from the ordinary way of thinking.
Yeah,
that's the way I translate it.
Out of the box, going out of the box. So that's the question. Basically, that was the question in today's language. Okay, to essentialize, Avalokiteshvara gave 4 boxes. From one box you go out, but then you find you are in another box, bigger box. And then the whole point of the Prajnaparamita Sutra, which you were reading as I was coming in, is really how to go out of not just one box, but all the 4 boxes. The identity crisis, identity issue that we have, that's a small box. That's like, actually, I know for us it's a really big issue, but for Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, it's the smallest box. Yeah, so this is why I was saying, Prajnaparamita Sutra that you were reading as I was coming in, this is one of the most avant-garde, most progressive thinking system which cannot be beaten even today, I feel. Now, of course, the question is, what is the relevance today? Every time we talk about the relevance, we have to talk. We have no choice, but we have to talk about dukkha. I'm using the word dukkha instead of suffering because dukkha is much, much bigger than the suffering. That English word suffering, I don't know what's in Japanese, dukkha. As long as we have a dukkha, Prajnaparamita, or the Heart Sutra is relevant. So what is this dukkha that I'm talking about? Obviously, the boxes. What's wrong with the boxes? Now, this is a big subject. Because it's big subject because boxes are quite attractive. They are very well built. And they have all the amenities inside. And, it's just, the boxes are really, even seemingly comfortable. But each of these boxes are never perfect. So, if not today, if not tomorrow, definitely day after tomorrow, this box is going to give you challenge. And this challenge is what we get so entangled. So when the Buddhist people ask me, what is the purpose of life? The person who is asking the question will naturally, wholeheartedly expect me giving an answer that fits in the box. Just to talk a little bit more about the boxes, the character of the boxes. Okay? One character. Do you want to be useful? That's it. You want to be useful? You are already in the box. That's a big statement. I hope it doesn't go over the top of your head. You spend millions to your children going to school thinking that they will become useful. Of course, the moment you have that kind of wish to be useful and that kind of, joining that kind of thing, you are an easy target. That's what I mean by, I'm trying to explain the word dukkha. Usually I would use the suffering, but you become vulnerable. You want to be useful? You want your children to be useful? And then, of course, you need to learn what is meant by usefulness. And then there are all the other people who are living in their own boxes. There's so many. Just to give you a few names. There's a box called Eton. There's a box called Oxford. They tell you, this is going to make you useful. This is going to make your children useful. And then, of course, with an amazing font and picture and words that are carefully chosen by marketing people who have learned your insecurity from A to Z. Oh, by the way, after hearing this, I'm not expecting you to stop sending your children to school. No, not at all. I'm just speculating. I think it's good to speculate. I think speculating is actually a modern day vipassana. So, and then there's all kinds of things, right? Like marking and, like points and awards and diplomas and all of it. These are some very few characters of boxes. Now, in the process of falling into these boxes, they actually also create many extra negative, side effects. It's like, you have a cold and then you take an antibiotic, but the antibiotic has a negative side effect of killing some really good bugs. But we have no choice. I know. This is. I just want us to just know that that's what we do. Anyway, some of the negative effects are, you see, you have all these boxes, right? This is the point, marking, award, diplomas, success, useful, useless. All this can also create negative impacts such as reclusiveness. And sometimes you can have both reclusiveness and very expressive, I guess, extrovert. Yeah. I think they'll be more and more bipolar. Because, we are making the ingredient for bipolar. And then some other negative impacts are like displacement, disconnected from, I don't know, things like nature. I don't know how to put this in a more practical context. Let me give you this example. Maybe your next Japanese prime minister, before he or she gets elected, he or she has to be a Shinto practitioner for 3 years. Must, nothing else, just that. Because right now, I don't know so much about Japan, but definitely elsewhere in the Himalayas, they're displaced and disconnected. I see some of our Indian friends there. He's from South India. He probably will know more about Charles Dickens or Shakespeare than Nagarjuna. Shakespeare. Doesn't matter, whoever. And our Bhutanese friends, same. Probably these Bhutanese, they know who is the full name of the first king of England, and the date when the London Bridge was built. And I have some Hong Kong, I think I saw some Hong Kong people here. They even call themselves sometimes Dora or Fanny, which the English name that even in England is outdated. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I see something like that also in Japan. Until recently, I'm a big fan of Murakami. But as I read him, and as I read people like Yasunari Kawabata, now Yasunari Kawabata seems to be not disconnected, feels like that. He seems to really, I don't know, it's like I read Snow Country many times. I still don't understand most of it, but I cannot stop reading because it's just so beautiful. After reading it, it still sort of stays in your head. I want to go to some of this train trip that he has written. I don't know where it is. Like I want to go to some of this onsen that he wrote. But with a Murakami's book, after I read, I don't want to do any of what he has written. I'm still Mr. Murakami, don't get me wrong, I'm still your fan. There are really some really good ones. I don't know, it's a bit like, looking back, even the Japanese filmmakers. I have to say this, I know I have said this many times, but maybe not to the Japanese. The Ozu's film called Tokyo Story, towards the end, I will spoil the film, I'm sorry, I will have to spoil the film. Spoiler, tell the end of the story right away. There's a scene where two girls are talking about life. And then the younger girl, whose name I forgot, the actress, the older one is Setsuko Hara, right? And they're talking, and then the younger girl sort of say, is that all there is in life? And then at that moment, you see from the distance the train coming. I'm not Japanese. I have no, connection to the Japan, but because I feel Ozu is so connected to the spirit, I feel emotional. Anyway, I'm talking about the boxes and its side effects. Yeah, disconnected. This is a big one. Disconnected from the past, disconnected from the nature. But you see, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, the Japanese, they dealt with this problem of disconnected by doing just sitting. When you just sit, you are connected. Yeah, another one, negative impact, is feeling trapped. And then also a lot of conflicting thoughts, like wanting to escape from the tribe, sort of the club, but at the same time wanting to belong to something or someone, you know? I think it's called romance, right? It's called romance. Wanting to escape, but wanting to belong together. Be it with a country, be it with a, I don't know, person, doesn't matter. Yes. And then restlessness. And remember, I was talking earlier about how much choice we have. We just have so much choice. Oh my goodness. Even just one store, 7-Eleven, just so much choice. But we still feel alienated. With all that choice, we still feel alienated. What's wrong with us? Yes, and then of course, over-stimulation. These are something, I'm talking about the box still. Okay, the last one. Yes. This is important. Sensitive and insensitive. I can already feel it's coming to Japan. This is going to really pull, this is going to, this is going to test us. Just these two, being sensitive and insensitive, just so complicated. Sometimes, I don't know, like you don't like when somebody is too sensitive, or you don't like somebody, you don't like when they are not sensitive. I don't know, it's so complicated. Sometimes, you like your partner to be like a lonely dog, pet dog. Your pet dog that's wagging tails and always jumping over you. Sometimes it is, we like them to be just like a cooked vegetable. It's so complicated. Okay, going back to Heart Sutra. So in the Heart Sutra, as I said, there are 4 boxes that you have to transcend. I'm sure it's in the Japanese translation. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate bodhisattva. So that is the question that Shariputra asked. Okay, how should a bodhisattva? How should we, transcend? How should we go out of the box? Four boxes we need to transcend. And how do we do that? Avalokiteshvara gave us 4 conclusions, I should say. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than the emptiness, emptiness is not other than the form. We can't possibly, discuss the whole thing, but I'm thinking like, which one we should choose. Okay. Almost all the Buddha's teachings will appear like a contradiction constantly. Do you know why? Because we have to, okay, remember there's a box, the big box, inside there's another box inside, so the 4 boxes, right? So we need to say, let's go out of this box. We are talking about the small. But then we also don't want to settle into the second box. So the instruction that is given regarding the first box must be defeated by the instructions that is given for the second box. I'm sorry, I'm being very technical, but just hear this for now. Okay? I'm going to slowly conclude everything what I'm going to say, and then I will let you ask some questions. Because we shouldn't be talking this too long, otherwise it's be too boring and too, you will never go to a Buddhist teachings. Okay, now to explain these 4 things, let's go back to our Buddhist question. What is the purpose of life? There's no purpose. That is the first one. Form is emptiness. But then, that sort of, there is no purpose, is another box. Okay, so you are already in the box of there is a purpose in the life. Now I say there is no purpose in the life. That has become a one box. Then I will say, well, you need to learn. Purpose of your life is to learn there is no purpose. Yes. Then probably you will say, okay, I see. It's a little difficult because you see, especially if you are still inside the first box, the second box theory is difficult to understand. By third, I will be discussing more about what do you mean by purpose and what do you mean by life. You know what I mean? Like a life. What is purpose of life? What is life? What is purpose? So you need to transcend. You need to get out of this notion that you have a life and therefore you have a purpose. But then immediately the 4th one. I am not saying that there is no life, because that is also a box. Anyway, to, more simplified all these statements which I've just told you. Using the word form is emptiness, emptiness is form, the 4th statement. When the Buddhists say form is emptiness, obviously we are not negating something obvious. We are more concerned about you being trapped into thinking that something truly exists. So if you pay attention, you will know that 2 sentences are contradictory. Form is kind of a contradictory. Form is emptiness, but then emptiness is form. Okay? So you are looking at the mirror. Inside the mirror, there is a face, your face. Actually, your face did not go there. That is sort of a form is empty. But in the mirror, the form that is in the mirror is intact. It's, everything is there. Nothing is missing. function of that reflection it still happens. And that is what we call emptiness is form. And this emptiness and the form, they are not like two entities. So that's the two later statement, that emptiness is not other than the form is not other than the emptiness. The conclusion is, in the Heart Sutra, the base of identity, the self, is a total illusion. Now, when I say it's an illusion, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It still functions. So if we can really understand this not only intellectually, but emotionally, but habitually, then we will get rid of all the boxes. So just to give you just a vague example, like when you are watching a movie, you'll be involved with the story, you'll be probably sad, probably get excited, probably laugh, but all along, you also know this does not exist. So this is why you can afford to pause it, rewind it, fast forward it. And this is how Shariputra, Avalokiteshvara, and the Shakyamuni dealt with clinging to the self. So identity itself is an illusion. So there is no base for crisis. Okay, that's just a very brief. I wanted to my purpose is really to make you appreciate the Heart Sutra, that it is so relevant, more relevant today than ever. That is why sometimes this is also referred as dharani that dispels all suffering. Okay, if there's any questions. Okay.
Thank you for today's talk and everything you said. A lot of questions I had you already replied to. But I was wondering what happens when, as a practitioner, even a very bad one sees people that are kind of stuck in the repetition of their suffering kind of as an entertainment, and you want to kind of show them the Dharma. So maybe you can think that they need the Dharma, but they don't want it. So sometimes in your activities as a teacher, it's kind of clear that you teach, but I don't know, you also make films and other things. Do you sometimes do that in a sense, like putting the Dharma inside something attractive so people get in touch with the teachings in a way that is kind of new or appealing?
Yes, all skillful means applies, including not even talking with them.
Okay, so the idea of a trap for Dharma, sorry. In the end, like, so what do you do when you encounter people that do not want the Dharma, but maybe you think they need it? Thank you.
Okay, any other? Yeah.
Okay. As far as I understood, she can see that other people, what kind of past life the other people had, and when they want to do this life again, she actually can see. I'm not sure if I'm understanding well. She can see that what kind of life that particular person is going through, and that kind of notion perhaps is a little different from Buddhist notion of reincarnation. So she wants to hear what the Rinpoche's reaction is.
Yes. Because I am a hypnotist, and when I do hypnosis to the client, and the client's the subconscious that his past life didn't do very well, so he will try again this life. Or some people's subconscious will say,
I can't hear you. Yeah, I think better I will just answer this. Mm-hmm. Okay. For the Buddhists, all this is not really, it's I should tell you this. Yeah. I think this is actually part of the thing again. I think it is, issues such as reincarnation and the Buddhists believing in reincarnation, Buddhists believing in karma as a Buddhist identity actually is a much later. It's like, if you are teaching mathematics, simple mathematics like, dividing and, what do you call it, multiplying and all of that is given. It's just there. That's not a main subject. So you can say that Buddhists will kind of accept these, but Buddhists will never accept reincarnation as the ultimate truth. No. Also karma, never accept as the ultimate truth. Coming back to our subject, for Buddhism, reincarnation, karma, these are all one of these boxes. And if you ask them, is it good to believe in reincarnation and good to believe in, karma? They will say, yeah, it's a useful belief. You should have it. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, so if you ask a Buddhist, how about, I don't believe in reincarnation, I don't believe in karma. For the Buddhists will think that is a much more complicated box. It's almost like a casket. Believing in karma, believing in reincarnation is like a paper box.
Which box?
Paper box.
Paper box.
Easy to destroy. Nihilism. Because if you don't believe in reincarnation, if you don't believe in karma, you are basically in the nihilist box. By the way, here, now I suddenly remember, I wanted to always ask this question. What is the word reincarnation in Japanese?
生まれ変わり。生まれ変わり。生まれ means born, be born. 変わり means change.
Is it a new word or is it a classic word?
新しい言葉でしょうか、それとも昔からある言葉でしょうか、生まれ変わりというのは。
Because I
日
know
本語の生まれ変わりという言葉は、輪。
What is in Chinese? What does that mean?
Change
Life. I'm asking this because, our language is also so influenced. Again, going back to my Bhutanese, fellow Bhutanese. Sometimes my fellow Bhutanese, especially educated fellow Bhutanese, they annoy me sometimes. They relate to Buddhism with a tool, the sort of English tool, colonial tool. Then it doesn't work. I mean, it can work, but it's so complicated. I'll give you one example. The word reincarnation, English word, seems to have a connotation that there is a soul going from chicken to the butterfly to the fish, all that. Buddhists don't believe in soul. So when the Bhutanese ask about using the word reincarnation, I have to be so careful. But many Bhutanese elites, they have studied in Christian schools. So when they are asking, they are using the Christian word and Christian mindset. And that annoys me. Word reincarnation in the Dharma, in the Tibetan word is yangsi. That is very complicated. At best, in English, yangsi is something to do with the continuity. So let's say a modern Japanese, scientific Japanese, commits a crime today. Tomorrow, police catches him, goes to the court. Modern scientist Japanese, can he say, yesterday's me is different. Today's me, I'm innocent. You can't really do that. Scientifically, you can. But in the human world, you cannot. Your fingerprints are there, everything, everything is there, right? That's how the Buddhist idea of reincarnation
で、それが、
Yeah, so it's very complicated. It's much more complicated. Yeah, and just because I remember, I will share this very important quotation for you. This is coming from Chandrakirti, and I want to quote this because I know there are a lot of Buddhists who think, oh, the purpose of a Buddhist is to collect lots of good karma. So hear this quotation. Chandrakirti said, if you are an idiot, you do bad things and go to hell. If you are idiot, you do good things and go to heaven. Both idiot. If you are wise, you transcend transcend and then go to liberation. So actually, the Buddhist practice is really not hovering around, getting so paranoid about the bad karma and collecting the good karma as a mileage plus, Yeah, so this is all related to what we have been talking. Okay, few more questions. So, yeah, whoever has the mic, please.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I have a question regarding to the first boxes that you're talking about, the wish to be useful. So what is the differences or the relationship between wish to be useful and the aspirations that you wish to bring the ultimate benefit to all the sentient beings? And does this so-called aspirations or bodhicitta is also in some kind of boxes as well? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make the answer very short. The aspiration in Mahayana Buddhism becomes a perfect aspiration when you transcend again, gati gati para gati para samgati. Only then it becomes a real aspiration. Otherwise, it's a bondage. Okay. One more, yes.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I'm very honored to meet you again at Tokyo after 7 years. Thank you for your teachings. May I request the Ayatara transmissions? May I request the Ayatara transmission?
Okay. Can we exchange number or something like that, and then I will give you?
Okay, thank you, Rinpoche.
Okay, one more question. 1, 2, 3, and then we end. Okay.
Rinpoche, is the survival and continuity of the Buddha Dharma necessary for a bodhisattva to fulfill the aspiration to liberate all sentient beings? Or is this, like you said, too, something that's still trapped in bondage?
Aspiring to liberate all sentient beings is actually very much within the context of transcending. Okay?
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Which I'm not sure if I had understood well. Rinpoche talked about form is emptiness, emptiness is form, and then after that, there are the feeling perception is also empty in nature. So the question is, there are sort of in the science that start proving that form is emptiness, emptiness is form. But when it comes to feeling perception, that's that part. He wants Rinpoche to give some example.
When it comes to the
feeling perception.
Feeling.
Yeah, feeling perception.
Yes, yeah. That's an important question. Yeah. In the Buddhist sort of, this is another angle, okay? Buddhists think that whenever we think of us, me, I, there are 4 things we are thinking of: body, feeling, mind, and then we call it dharma. What is reference? Let's call it reference. These 4, the body is the most gross, tangible, measurable. So I think in the world we have quite a okay study on this. You are right. When it reaches to feeling and then mind, even less study. Almost none. And then the most difficult one is the last one. It's like a reference, basically. It's an important question. I wish you, I hope you will keep this question. The answer to this is actually quite a lot of, study of Buddhism. And this is where Buddhism prevails. Buddhism is really good as you go deeper into feeling, mind, and the reference. This is where the Buddhism is so rich. I don't think I can do it to this time. Yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for the precious teaching. Humbly request, can you please bestow on us the oral transmission of the Heart Sutra and also bless us so that we can really understand and study.
I will end it with that.
Thank you.
What else? Yeah, that's it, right? One more? Is it? Okay, so then we will, we will end it to this time. Really, I want to express my joy for having this connection. Not so many people have spent time and money and energy discussing these things. Okay. So I'm going to read the Heart Sutra in Tibetan. Jagarkedu Bhagavati Prajaparamita Hridya Bhagakedu Jamdendama Shaluchi Paduchimi Nimbo Pambochiko Digetagi Toba Tuijina Jamdende Jebikap Jagapumberilo Gilongi Gindi Chimbota Chalisumbi Gindi Chimbota Tabjid Judy Daisy Jamdend Saman Hawa Shej Chujin Namraji Dingins and Never Shukso Yang Daisy and Jusima Sambachim Papa Janis one chu Shiluchi Paduchim Samujabani the number that Pumbo Batella Rajin Tomo number Tao. Tenesanji to Sadan the Masharipu, Chanjusam Sambachim Papa Genders want you to get him so. Rigibo, Kanla, Sharachi Paradishim, Samichepa, Jeper, but Chitter Labarcha. They get him Rabatang. Chanjusam Sambachim Papa Genders want you with Sadan the Mashara, the Dibula, they get him Hasso. Sheripu, Rigipuam, Rigipumo, Kanla, Sharachi Paradishim, Samichepa, Jeper, but D. Dieter number Tavachati, Pumpong about the Jana Jinjitomber. Yahanda Bachistao. Subtombo, Tombani, Zulich, Tombani Jemai, Tombani, Sujima, Tajin, Throat and Tushit and Tujit and membership and Tomba Wo. Sheribu, the Hatter, Chetam Tombani, the Tinim, Majiba Manga Petimato, Jivame Bacambo, Sheribu, Tatam and Tombani, the Zume, Trome, Tushime, Tujime, membership and Nima, Naome, Hame, Jime, Lume, Yime, Zume, Dame, Time, Rome, Regime. Meadow, Migi come Mebaniji come, each membership becomes part of Maripa met, Maripa Seven Mepan, Kashi met, Kashi Seven part and met, to Asian to do out the Pinjo over the Lame, Shim, Toba, Matopa, and met. Sheribu Tetavan, the Toba may be chill, Shelter Parchim attention at the summit, Chibam, which of the chinch solution did and young and did touching door. Tuition the membership is such time, Shelter Parchim at the Lana Bayan, the better which it was of Sanjay, the other and Shelter Parchim. Chipping on a minion, but never chipping on temperature to shiver chipping on the Zoom better than Bishop Shelter Parchim, Hamlet Bar, Theatre, Kateka, the Paragat, some got the so hard. Sherry between some much of the church, but some of the German thing of the legend changes so much in Papa Jen, so much Lexo, Chivajene. Lesso Rigibuti, the church, the church, partition, but some of the Chever chatted, Shinshiban, German digit, cuts and southern shadow the debut changes of Papa Jen, so much of the Tamil and the quarter that Father made a Hama in the Jessica German, the Sumba long, but